It's a fair bet that Kevin McCarthy's opponents in the House are just as surprised as his supporters. Here's what we heard from House Republicans about the big shakeup for the race for Speaker.
This leadership has lost. They essentially have lost 2 speakers in 2 weeks. And I think it's actually a victory for the American people that are demanding change in Washington.
I believe he's going to be the most influential voice as to who we can get to 218. Kevin McCarthy remains our leader.
It's not about 218, it's about 240 something, whatever our current number is. We want every Republican to get behind one person to be our speaker.
Whoever's going to be the next speaker should not appease this group of rejectionists, who have no interest in governing.
30 to 40 principled guys are moving toward a process that will actually hurt us in a vote sense, but we're doing it for the good of the conference and for the good of the country.
Well, you heard that was a diverse set of opinions there. For more reaction, let's bring in Republican Policy Committee Chairman Congressman Luke Messer of Indiana. And Congressman Messer, we've had plenty of conversations. When you got into Congress in 2012, you were one of these people wanting to create a different tone, a bipartisan tone, when you came in 2012. What's your take on what the answer should be here on your next speaker?
Well, that's a hard group to lead, isn't it? And I think the speakership is a tough job. I don't know why anybody would want it. I heard earlier conversations about Paul Ryan as a possible alternative. Paul's a great leader. I think he could be a strong speaker, but to me, for us, it's a lot less about who and a lot more about how. The reality is, Chuck, as you heard in those comments, we're really a coalition government as a caucus. We're about 1/3 or a half of a governing conservatives. We've got swing state moderates, swing district moderates, and we've also got obviously the Freedom Caucus. Somehow we've got to bridge those gaps and come together.
What is it that, I mean, look, this is obviously about the issue of 218. McCarthy knew he couldn't get it. He probably would have had the votes to be the nominee, but he couldn't get to 218. There's just 40 or 50 members. What do you think it's going to take? You brought up the Freedom Caucus. It's them plus, say, another 10. What is it going to take to get them to agree to a unity candidate?
Well, I mean, first it's going to take a strong, credible leader, but I think beyond that, we've got to look at opening up the process. The model of this institution for decades has been rooted in a very strong speakership. The American people are disappointed in this institution. We all know the numbers. 90% believe Congress isn't working well for them. And I think the reason they're so angry is because they understand when Congress is broken, the American people don't have a voice. But within our conference, we've got to find a way that the folks in the Freedom Caucus, the folks in our swing districts, the Tuesday group folks, and our governing coalition of conservatives in the middle all have a voice. I don't have a silver bullet solution for that, but I do think it's a different model than the model that we've seen over the last decade.
Roll Call has a great piece out this afternoon about the different issues that they would like the conference to address, the different conservatives. Walter Jones says all these candidates need to confess their misdeeds before asking to be elected again. Thomas Massey wants to dilute the Speaker's power when it comes to the Republican Steering Committee. James Renacci wants to prioritize floor votes on bills that have the support of a majority of members. It sounds as if there are a lot of members that would like a basic platform from whoever the next speaker is on some reform on how the place works. What would you like to see?
Well, the conference chair and I put together a meeting yesterday that about 120 plus of our members attended. And I will tell you, for all the division you hear and the news clips there, when you get these folks together and set them across the table, there are issues that unite them. I mean, frankly, one of them is trying to open up a process. In today's world, Chuck, with all the rules we have in the House, if Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith comes to Washington, it's about impossible for them to drive debate. And when that happens, the American people don't have a voice. I think we need a strong leader. Someone like Paul Ryan would be great. And then we're going to have to figure out together how we can open up the process. Here's what I do know, though, is none of this drama, none of this palace intrigue inspires anybody. We need to get through this quickly and get back to the work of the American people.
Let me ask you this. You're going to have an antsy Senate Republican, a bunch of Senate Republicans who some of them are up for re-election, very nervous, who are simply they don't want a showdown in December. Are you going to be comfortable if Mitch McConnell and John Boehner come to the decision to say, you know what, we got to clear the decks, let's do debt ceiling now, let's get this government funded through the end of the fiscal year next year, and let's get all of the potential ways that could shut down the House, let's get it all out of the way in October right now. How would you feel about that if that's what happened?
That sounds a lot to me, Chuck, like the old way of doing business, and I think that's going to blow up this place even more. So, I mean, ultimately, we got to figure out a way to come together. We need to do it quickly. It's not going to be easy, but, you know, we all got elected to this office to lead. We got to figure out a way to do it. And again, we got to do it quickly because the American people don't really care about all this inside baseball stuff. They care about the issues that make their life better.
Would the House be better off at this point if Speaker Boehner just stayed till the end?
Well, I wish Speaker Boehner had stayed. I was surprised when he left. But, I mean, ultimately, the Speaker has made his decision. He said he'll stay till we get our next Speaker. I doubt that'll be months, though. I think it's more like weeks.
All right. Congressman Luke Messer from Indiana. Good to talk to you again, sir.
Thanks, Chuck.
We'll check in soon. Still ahead, we'll have reaction from a member of the Tea Party caucus in the House, plus conservative radio talk show host Hugh Hewitt. And later...